everybody to the Double Trouble podcast. I'm your host, Kayleigh.
And Mr. Jason.
And we are here to talk to you about more things about our lives. We are now on episode 4 in our podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. So we're just going to hit straight to it. We're going to talk about Jason's oppression in New York.
Yeah, you came up with the title. I didn't.
So for the people who don't know, what is oppression?
Okay. Oppression would probably be defined as when a group or people feels limited in pursuits, typically like financial, maybe health or family, just when someone feels like they are being pushed down on by society or being negated to certain opportunities that other people have free access to, that those people then don't get access to. Most of the time, oppression tends to be associated with people of color or with people of what you would call a minority or a different ethnic background, but times have changed a lot.
Straight out of Webster's dictionary. That was a perfect response. Okay, so have there been any times you have faced oppression in your life?
Okay, so, it should be noted that you sat there and came up with a bunch of questions to ask me, and I didn't really read the questions word for word, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm asking you them.
Right, so I don't know these questions, but yes, there have been plenty of times where I have been... I wouldn't even use the word oppressed, to be honest, because it's not something that I identify with.
Oh, what word would it be?
I think a better word would be like prejudice or targeted. I think those are
targeted
more to the point, because I think oppressed, when people talk about the oppressed people, in order to be oppressed, you kind of have to accept that it's happening. And I mean, to a degree, I could be like, yeah, that happened and it wasn't fair. But at the same time, I never said or acted like I was oppressed. It's just now that I'm in Vietnam and now that I have a lot of distance and now that I'm able to reflect on what happened and what is happening in America with, if I'm being honest, with white straight guys specifically, I can see the trend, I can see the pattern, and I could see why it could be easily classed as oppression. So, yeah, I have had a lot of times where I've been targeted or I've been attacked.
Yeah. How many times?
That's the question, is I don't know when it started becoming targeting, and it was because like when I was a kid, like when I was in my teens, I don't know, I couldn't really tell you when it started. I just know that when I was a kid, you're a guy, you're straight, you're excited, you like talking to girls. You get into a first job or two and you get that, bump on the nose, that shame on you. Don't get too crazy with the girls. Make sure you cool it, right? You get that sort of a talk.
Yeah.
I had that. But I don't know at what point it became like the automatic thing. Like if I was like, it got to a point later on where I would get blamed for things because of being a white guy and being a straight guy. And it was no longer just like, it no longer felt friendly. It no longer felt like, okay, he's a young kid, he doesn't know any better, like, let's just, warn him. Like my first jobs, it felt like I was just being sought after for blame and excuse when people wanted someone to attack. And at this time, I think it's still going on, where no one asks questions. If I got attacked, they didn't need any evidence. They didn't need any proof. They just needed enough people saying the same thing, and then they believed it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Would you like to specify particularly where, or would you like to keep it more open? Or like anonymous?
no, I mean, I don't mind specifying where. I will say that the areas where I definitely felt attacked the most was a burger place called what was it called? 189 Burger in East Aurora. I mean, it was horrible the way they attacked me, given my work ethic and the professionalism that I came to the job with. It was really cruel, and it was really stupid. I don't know. They were a company that didn't want to hear my side. They wanted to be as woke as possible. They wanted to have the same. They wanted to be looked on by the public as. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I've been in these situations, it's always like it seems like it's out of a place where the company or the people want to be as open as possible, and then they persecute you because you're the person everyone else is fine, but because you're the white straight guy, you have to be persecuted because you don't fit their narrative of open by definition.
By definition.
By definition, by being a white straight guy, you're not part of that club of open people. And something that doesn't, I don't think, matter, but I would like to say, when I was in high school, it was when the whole LGBT stuff started. I joined it.
You did?
As an alliance. You remember the A part? LGBT something /A?
No.
The A was supposed to mean like allies. Like anyone who wanted to join who didn't fit those categories but just wanted to support them.
Oh, I never heard of the A.
Yep. I joined it. Just to be, intrigued to see what was going on, to be out there, you know? And it's like, like I said, it's high school. I don't think that's a huge deal, but like, it's funny that eventually the world would just start to turn on people like me, and we became the bad guys by default when there used to be a place when it was first starting out, when this whole, I guess, woke ideology was first starting out. There used to be a place for people who wanted to have their own beliefs. This was literally the definition. It was like, you can have your own beliefs, you can feel the way you want to feel, you can be, straight, and no one, you're just considered an ally. You're saying you support them. You're saying you're happy for their cause. That used to be a good thing. By the time I left high school and I left college, that was no longer even possible. It felt like, unless you're one of these fucking simp people that don't have spines, don't have brains, don't have any like control on life or idea what they're doing. Those people are accepted because they're so docile that they'll take anything. And that's the thing, is those people are only accepted because they continue to abuse themselves. Because then what they do to make this group of people that target us happy is they continue to attack themselves.
Oh.
Like masochistically. Like attack themselves.
Yeah.
Ridicule themselves and their people, and say that, yeah, we were wrong. They don't stop and think like, no, this is enough that I'm supporting you guys. I'm for your rights. I'm happy for you. No, they attack themselves, and that's how they get welcomed in.
Okay. This question. Where, I don't know, maybe this only happened like once for each place, but where did it happen the most?
Where did it happen?
Yeah, the most.
I don't know. I mean, obviously the job. I think it mostly happened in jobs. That was the most occurrences, was in places of work, places that should have been more professional. I mean, the longer I stayed in America, the less professionalism I saw, and the more I saw woke ideology creep into work on a daily basis. And the more I saw like shit that shouldn't matter, or shit that should just be like a clear conversation, turn into something that gets you fired. You know, and I think that for me, the two places was definitely that 189 Burger and Starbucks. 100%. 100%. Those two places were.
Well, Starbucks is like the worst.
It was the worst. I mean, and that was the crazy thing is Starbucks. I went through every channel that I could, and it still wasn't enough to keep just a shitty little job where I was making like $16 an hour. I went through every channel. I went all the way to the top of the top. I even called their back end shit that you're supposed to call. And already, that's how I found out I had a report on me. Was from calling, not anonymous, but telling my name, telling the people I think were attacking me. And then I find out, I get a call like the next day, but it was from an anonymous report. And this lady was not calling about my report. She's calling about this other report that must have been put in months ago. And I'm like, what? I just put my report in yesterday. She's like, no, this isn't for you. This is about you. And I'm like, what? How's a report about me when I just put a report in? And then I put the pieces together and realized someone had been building a case against me for months anonymously. And I got fired for
it was a woman.
An anonymous report fired me with anonymous incidences brought up, but from anonymous people. And then the people that the incidents were about would go to my higher ups and say, look, this didn't happen the way people are saying it did. And it didn't matter. And then when I got fired, the biggest thing and I've mentioned this to some other people, they've had some pretty strong reactions. And I'm not sure if anyone in the community would have a opinion on it, but these things called microaggressions. That's what got me fired, was something called a microaggression. And for anyone who has, wants just to understand it, supposedly what a microaggression is, though I completely disagree with it in every way possible, what a microaggression is somehow you offend somebody even when you don't mean to, and that still can make you the one in trouble. You do something by you existing and having some sort of mannerism, and it offends them. That's your fault. It's not this. I mean, it's just the most stupidest shit ever. And I detest any company that associates themselves with something like that, with something where you can do what you're trying to do. Like if someone comes to me and tells me like, hey, Jason, you said this, I thought that was rude. And I could agree or disagree and we have a conversation. Okay, that's one thing. And then I keep doing the rude thing. If I see it as rude and I keep doing it, it's like, okay, that's not a microaggression. That's just being an asshole. But if you're not going to tell me the things I'm doing wrong, but then people can complain about those things, and the things I'm doing wrong are not even offensive to anybody, but they can claim them as these microaggressions, I don't agree with that. How does that help somebody get better at something? How is that beneficial for anybody? That just seems like such a... Because I remember having the conversation, like, with the higher-ups, with the directors and stuff, like, okay, well, how the fuck do we know when I'm doing a microaggression? They didn't have an answer.
You're just fucked?
Yeah, you're just fucked. If you get targeted, you're just fucked. But it's only if you get targeted and you're a white, straight guy. I'm sure there's accounts in cases where people don't fit that stereotype and they get targeted. But by and large, then and up to now, those are the people that get the shittiest end of the stick. Those are the people that don't get raises. Those are the people that don't get promotions. Those are the people that are first to get fired. Those are the people that don't get equal rights in workplaces. They don't get equal say in workplaces. I say something and a black girl says something. The black girl, what she says matters more. That's the truth. Or I say something and a woman says something. What the woman says matters more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, next question here is any of this in Vietnam?
No.
Any wokeism or microaggressions, any of that here?
So, to be completely honest, I see it starting.
You do?
Not the oppression to me, but I see the hints of... Maybe I would call it progressive thinking. Because, like, I had a situation a couple weeks ago where I was being playful with my students and then would get reprimanded by my office because I had bonked a kid on the head with like an empty water bottle. Very playful. They knew it was playful. Mm-hmm. They acted in the moment like it was playful. But then because they would go and tell their parents would scream at the office. And then the office response was to tell me not to touch my kids ever for any reason, period. And I'm like, but they hug me and stuff. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And they're like, they don't have an answer for that.
Facts.
That to me is the progressive shit starting.
And why do like the Vietnamese teachers there get to hit the kids with rulers?
Right. And
like,
what I've been told is that stuff starting to be phased out. That hitting with rulers and stuff. I think there needs to be a balance. I think physical discipline is okay. I think there needs to be a balance. But I don't think it should get to a point where I can't touch a student in any way, shape, or form. Or I could get yelled at.
Yeah, like, oh my god, he's choking. Oh well.
Right, like what are you supposed to do if, like you're saying, like if he's choking or something, I can't help him now? You know? It's like they want you to step in but not step in. To me, that just seems very, very dangerous. And I think it only seems dangerous compared to what I saw in America and where it went. And because I saw it go there, I know it's possible here. Mm-hmm. Because Vietnam mirrors America and other countries like that. They do it in their Asian way, but they fucking want to be like them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I see the beginnings, the embers of progressive stuff here.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It reminds me of their bullying campaign in America.
Right.
When, when you would see bullying or you're being bullied, you tell someone. You don't hit back or anything. You don't hit the bully.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
You got to hit the bully. You know, I remember Derek came through my school. I one ear out the other. Someone put their hands on me, I put them on the fucking floor. Mm-hmm. I don't care. And I think someone should do that. I think that kids should do that if they need to defend themselves. I don't think you should be... If you're being told to be a victim and to go run around screaming, I'm a victim, help me, you're not being helped in any way. You're not being helped by society in any way. And if people believe that, it says a lot about them.
Yeah. Right. Okay, next one. Okay, right after Is It in Vietnam is, what did you do to try and stop it?
Oh, I did everything. Everything I could think of. I unfortunately had to switch jobs at times because I'd get fired from one job and have to go to the next to make money. I was very open-minded and would have conversations with people of different sexual backgrounds, different racial backgrounds. I always was friends with, like, for instance, black people or Hispanic people or whatever. Like, that's what I grew up with. So I was always friends with those people. And when I go to new jobs or something, I make friends with them easily. I did eventually, sadly, start to apply a certain level of coldness at work that was very uncomfortable for me. It was not befitting for me. It wasn't something I was good at. And I just did it out of necessity. I did it to avoid not confrontation. I did it to avoid implications. I did it to avoid possible situations where people can make a plausible way of, oh, Jason did something wrong. Mm-hmm. That's literally why I did it. It was a survival tactic to get through work so I wouldn't be targeted and labeled because they didn't like me. Because, like I'll say it, I'm not, there's this belief I have that if you really want to live true to your values, you're going to have 20% of people that you meet not like you. Mm-hmm. No matter what you do. If you're true to yourself, if you're honest with yourself and you're honest about the way you carry yourself, 20% of people probably won't like your stuff, your personality. That's okay. That's okay. You don't need everybody to like you. And I would go through life kind of realizing that, like, okay, not everybody's going to like me, but I'm not going to change who I am. So that way, people, like this idea, like on would I be gay or something, but like even on another scale, because I'm pretty positive that part of the reasons why I would get fired or I'd get targeted is not because it wasn't because of my sexual orientation or color. It would probably start with my personality. They wouldn't like something about me.
Mm-hmm.
So then the easiest thing to do would be to attack my sexuality or my color or my being a guy, my gender.
Mm-hmm.
And then they could get rid of me. And that's what probably was going on, was like there would be these 20% of people that just hated my guts because they didn't like what I stood for. Because I was, and that's the thing, is I was doing jobs that were very social, that were very interactive. And so when you're in a job like that, I think it drew, I don't know if it still does, but I think it drew a lot of woke people. I think it drew a lot of progressive people. I think it drew a lot of different sexual backgrounds. And so no, I don't stand for all your beliefs to the fucking bottom. I'm not willing to be a bleeding heart for you. You know, I can respect your beliefs. I was always really good at having different beliefs with people and respecting them on it. And that's not something that the society in America, the younger generation, is good at all. If they had a different belief than me, that's why they would go after me. That's why I think it didn't start with my skin color or my gender or my sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just that these young people would get so aggravated that I believed what I believed, and the weird thing was I could go on my way and not target them and not try to go after them. That was the thing, is it took me, you know, when you're asking like, what did I do? It was really hard to start to think like them because it was so toxic. It was so snake-like, the way they were thinking. It was like oil on water. They were thinking in this way that's so perverse. And it was hard to do that. And that was one of the things that I tried doing, in the sense of like, okay, how would they think so that way I could be able to dodge that situation?
Right.
And that was one of the realizations I came to, was like, they just plain and simple didn't like my beliefs and used those reasonings to attack me instead of going because they couldn't get enough by just having a conversation with me, realizing they disagree and walking away. That wasn't okay. No, they had to destroy me. They had to destroy what I stood for. And they had to take me out of the game. I mean, they were ruthless. These people, these woke people, these ideologues or ideologues that see themselves as superior when they're not willing to negotiate with you, when they're not willing to debate with you, when they're not willing to hear your side, when, you know, if you don't agree, it's you're the devil. Those people are just, they're dangerous, and they're not dangerous in a good way.
Yeah. Do you think, just specifically for Starbucks, when the union came in and you spoke up about it and you started asking people questions, do you think that made them not like you?
Yeah, that was the biggest mistake.
Oh.
That was the biggest mistake. I didn't know. I got the job, and like a week and a half later, I got told that I was in the union vote. I said, what? And then they told me everything, that there's this union vote going on and that it's happening to other Starbuckses. And I knew Spot Coffee was kind of involved in that stuff, and that I and like 40 other people were involved in a vote that was coming up in like a month. And I literally was like, why? That's what I said to him. I said, why would you give me a vote when I've been here for a week and a half?
Facts.
And I forget their exact reasoning, but essentially they were like, it's just, you got hired, so you're in the vote. And I said, that was my first thing, was like, okay, can I at least point out how, because I wasn't the only one. There were like 3 of us or 4 of us that had just got hired, and we all have a say in the vote. A vote that's going to affect the store forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would start to ask that simple question, like, why are we allowing me and other people who have been here for not long at all and who are probably not going to stay to be able to vote? And they would get mad. That's what started it. Because I just wanted to simply ask questions and be like, this doesn't make sense, guys. Why are, like, I get that you want to vote for something, but why are new hires allowed to...
So they don't know. They're just going to hope that they vote for what they want.
Yep.
Probably.
Well, the new hires are just going to listen to whatever sounds trendy. And at the time, the trendy thing was to vote union. No one was educated. And I bless my stars that I had, it's a gift and a curse, I guess, in this situation. But like my knowledge of SGA, of student government, in college, that's how I knew that like the whole union thing was a lot more involved than the trend was making it seem.
Mm-hmm.
because the trend just wanted you to vote union to support, like, God. That was the thing. I would ask these people to explain their positions. They never would. They would just get mad at me and argue with me. It sounds a lot like how when you go to ask them if they vote for Kamala or Trump, and they say Kamala, and then they say, why? And then they don't have an answer.
Yeah.
That was how these people sounded. Because I would ask them, okay, you want to vote union? Why? And they really didn't have an answer. They would say, like, toxic shit about how, like, I remember male masculinity being brought up. I remember... sometimes it would get to, like, pay, and, like, it really didn't make sense. It really didn't make sense beyond some weird political, like, something going on in their head where they thought, oh my God, union is the best thing. And it's like, but, I just wanted to understand, like, okay, do you guys realize that if you get the union, you're going to have to sit there and do the union minutes? You're going to have to sit there and write the policy? The union doesn't give a fuck about you and your policy. You said yes. They get paid. That's it. Starbucks will pay them, and they're supposed to be doing stuff for you. But if you don't make that whole machine work, and it's not a easy thing to make work with something like Starbucks where you have people coming in and out all the time.
Yeah.
What the fuck do you think? That's why my suggestion, and I think they really didn't like it, was... Because I had been there for over a year, which I'm surprised I lasted that long if there was an investigation going out for me. But one of my suggestions was, why don't you just because the union vote failed the first time, and I think I had something to do with it. And
really?
I think that's really why they wanted me gone. Was like, I remember the first time I was just actively trying to talk to these people about the unions, because I didn't know how long I was going to be at Starbucks. But I knew the union vote would affect me. Because one of the first things they would affect is, like, your pay and your privileges that you get at Starbucks. Those things are now negotiable, meaning they don't have to, like, originally Starbucks was giving you, like, free drinks all the time, and I forget, a bunch of like little things that weren't huge but were nice that Starbucks just gave for free to their employees. When you're in a union, you have to renegotiate all those things. And because no one was willing to really understand that you would sit down and write policy, I was, like, against it, because I didn't want all these free things to go away the minute they got unionized. And so, the first time the vote failed. The second time, one of the things I mentioned while they were thinking about doing it, I said, guys, why are you not just having the vote for people who have been here for, like, 2 years or more? Like, that makes sense. I could get behind that. Why are you allowing the vote for anybody that's here for any amount of time at all? That makes no sense. Literally, my point being, and this, I think, really pissed them off, was from the first vote to the next vote, we had so much turnover. And the vote was months apart, Kayleigh. Months apart. And we had, like, I don't know, 12 to 14, maybe more people gone and in. In months. And those people were a part of the first votes that were now gone. That was my point, was, like, how are you going to allow that when it's going to completely affect your store forever? And you know what I realized in hindsight? I shouldn't have been fighting so hard for a company that would let me get fired the way they let me get fired.
Well, you didn't know that was going to happen.
I didn't. All of this stuff was it within the first couple months of me working there. This whole union stuff. And then the whole thing with getting fired and the way it happened, that was near the end. That obviously. But that was near, like, months after. So...
You said that there shouldn't even be a union at cafes like that.
No, because, I mean, I think you understand it, but I'll explain it for the audience. The simple reason behind why there makes no sense for there to be a union for a cafe is, number one, you're not working a hard job. You're working a cafe job, and you're probably not working that job permanently. Now, there might be a few amount of people that are working the job permanently. Older people, or, I don't know, people who just are so passionate about coffee or something. So there might be some people that are doing it on that level, but for the most part, cafes make no sense to have unions, because the people that are wanting changes for policies or whatever will not be there to enjoy them. Which was my point in the first thing. It's like, even if that union vote passed the first time around, half the fucking people were gone. So they don't even get to benefit from any of the policies that they would have wanted to vote on because now they're gone for whatever reasons. They quit or they wanted different jobs. So a union really should only be for people who plan to be there for a long time and for extremely dangerous or risky endeavors. And obviously there's exceptions like SAG-AFTRA, I think, is a great thing. That's an actors union because, that's such a wide market that I understand why there might be unions for actors or musicians or artists. But beyond that category and like dangerous jobs or jobs where you're going to be at it a long time, it doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And cafe does not fit in that category at all across the board.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. We're blowing through my questions. Okay. Okay, well, we'll separate this question into two parts. The next question is, why is it happening? So we'll do for why is it happening in America and why is it starting to happen in Vietnam? Which one do you want to start with? Which is like more easier answer.
That's the easier answer.
Okay, I think you kind of already answered it because like that's what everybody else is doing, right?
Yeah, well, Vietnam is set back in time. I really believe that. I think Vietnam's set back in time with a caveat. They have phones. Mm-hmm. They have smartphones.
I mean, some people here still use flip phones and Blackberries.
Right, right. But a lot of the population has smartphones or access to smartphones or internet in general. So that's the caveat. The reality is they're still set back in time, but they're set back in time and they can see the real world as it is today everywhere, which is really bizarre. So instead of having their own isolated culture where it could grow naturally, organically, they're just kind of mirroring what the rest of the world's doing and trying to catch up. That's how I see it. That would be why they would be looking similar with those progressive embers. It's because they're looking at the other populations, the other worlds, the other beliefs, the other political powers on a global scale. And they're saying, okay, well, I like what America's doing, or I like, what this country's doing. I want to model that, role model that, emulate that. For America,
why is it happening?
I don't know. I think it's a lot of reasons. I don't think I'm a good person to answer the question because I don't have a good enough understanding on the intricacies of, it's not history, but it's just the intricacies of, I guess, the current culture. I don't really understand the roots of every group of people. Like, my first impression and my first instinct is to say that there's honestly a belief that, maybe 40 years ago, 30, 40, almost 50 years ago, we were attacked in our colleges and in our academic institutions in a way that wouldn't be noticed till now. And what I think that's part of this whole culture movement, I don't know, I can't separate out like woke and LGBT and socialism.
I feel like that's all the same thing.
It's hard. It's really hard. And I know that there's differences. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that a lesbian is the same as a woke person.
Okay, yeah, there's differences.
There's differences, but the movement is really stuck together in my view. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of pieces that just seem so close that I can't figure out where one ends and the other begins. But it is my belief that 30 to 40 years ago, Russia or China or some power that didn't appreciate America started infiltrating our education system. And simply what they did, and you could look this up with Jordan Peterson or Gad Saad or go look at those two. But it's my belief that seriously that those countries, those powers infiltrated America and started changing our culture at the youth. Because I have this conversation sometimes with my mom or with Marty or with you, and I go, how is it that we can think that these people, woke people or cancel culture, how is it that we could see them as so crazy and they see us as crazy? How's that possible? Because I've always been the person that believes that everybody, even an idiot, has something worth hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So something's not right. And I think the only thing I've heard, the only theory I've heard that makes sense is that they were indoctrinated without knowing it. Without us knowing it. And so we look at these people and we think, you're a fucking moron, but that's all they know. That's what they were taught. That's what was indoctrinated in college. That's what was taught in high schools. That was what, when the mind, I understand this part. When I was in college, I think I was one of my most open-minded. You're in college. You get to experience new things. You get to hear new ideas. You're away from your parents sometimes. I get that. So if socialism or extreme progressivism, like radical race theory and shit like that, is what's being taught to young college kids, why would they not take these early beliefs and stick to them?
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. It's the only thing that I've heard that really makes sense to me and would make me understand why there would be a group of people within my own country that I could disagree with so vehemently.
Yeah. Would this be in the same realm of that video I showed you of Nickelodeon showing, like, the gay parade?
Yeah. I think that unfortunately... and that's the other thing, is there's obvious proof of what I'm talking about. There's that, what you said with the Nickelodeon and the gay stuff. Like, I get things change, but that's just so fucking...
And it's like for, like, 5-7-year-olds that they're showing too.
Yeah. Well, because our country's dealing with a lot of issues. Like we're saying woke, and we're talking about me being attacked as a white straight guy. But what about all the people that are being attacked with, not attacked, but their minds? The young kids are being assaulted in their minds to decide if they want to be a girl or a boy. What about that?
Mm-hmm.
We're not even talking about that. But that is huge with this whole concept. Kids should not be thinking about those things. Kids should not have...
I wasn't thinking about any of that.
No, when I was a kid, thinking about getting a tattoo was horrible. You get your ass beat talking about getting a tattoo before you're like 18.
Mm-hmm.
That was normal when I was a kid. Not, thinking about if I want to switch my penis out for a vagina. And now there's programs in California I know of with that Gavin Newsom dude who... They want to make it legal for the school to withhold information from the parents if the kid wants to change their sexual gender. And the school would be able to help the kid to do it.
Ugh.
Without their parents knowing.
I mean, that's California.
That's
California's
insane.
kind of fucked.
That's insane. But anyway, I think that's off topic a little bit, but I don't remember what you were asking me before.
It was about why is it happening? That was the questions.
Yeah, I think it's a really hard question to answer. And I think that's the best I can come up with right now is that, I think that there's some theories out there that I agree with, but I think everybody should go do your own research, I think that it could be a number of factors that cause it to be the way it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a good enough answer that I could feel... lock it in. Here's my answer. Believe that. I don't think that they should.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, well here's a good one for people who are now starting to panic and worry. Worry about if they're like younger and they're just starting to get into jobs. Any advice for regular men in America? What could they do?
Well, okay. Well, first let's define what a regular man is.
It's just like you, white straight guy.
But
just got out of high school and is looking for a job.
That's not enough. White straight guy isn't enough. I think that I would differentiate myself in the sense that like I don't have a victim mentality. Nor do I believe that because I'm white, I owe anybody anything.
Okay.
That's the difference. I don't believe that because I'm white or because I'm male, that I should be subservient to other people because they haven't had theirs, which is the belief that's going on in America. That's the belief with a lot of women in America, and that's the belief with a lot of... It's the surprising thing is it's not the belief for the colored people, but it's the belief for white people taking it for the colored people's cause. And I'm not sure that makes sense to people, but essentially there's a huge group of justice warriors who can actually be white straight guys just like me, but they have this weird self-inflicting wound mindset of, we don't deserve what we have, we need to give more to the colored people. So there's a difference, you know. If you're talking about a person who believes that they don't owe anybody anything just because they were born a certain color or a certain race or a certain sex, gender.
Okay, yeah. What advice do you have for those people?
For people that feel that way?
Yes.
I would advise not to go to college. Strongly.
Why is that?
College is... College, even when I was growing up, I believed college was the biggest scam. And that was without knowing some of the horrible things that it did to young people's minds. Mm-hmm. That was just based on the fact that, like, you could get the experience to get a job pretty much anywhere. Like, I still see this as true. Literally 90 to 95% of the work out there you could do without a college degree. Mm-hmm. The only stuff you really would need a college degree for would be a lawyer, a doctor, and some sort of, like, you know, maybe not a typical doctor like in a hospital, but like a psychologist or something. Like,
right,
maybe,
yeah.
You know, outside of that, you don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
So, by and large, don't go to college. Do not go to college. I would say, and I think I would say this to not just men, I would say this to anybody that you know, or not just white straight guys, but I would say this to anybody, is think about how you want to spend your time. Think about how much time you want to spend working. Think about what you want your family time to be like. Jordan Peterson puts it better than I could, but he says, you know, you've got your wealth, you've got your health, and you've got your happiness, you've got your relationships, both intimate and family. You got your friends, your friendships. Think about those things. Orient yourself in a way that you're going towards what you see as the ideal for each of those. I think in a practicality sense, I think the first thing would probably be to educate yourself by, you know, I said don't go to college. That doesn't mean don't read. That doesn't mean don't learn. I think you need to learn. You need to educate yourself. You need to read books. You need to talk to smart people. You need to have open dialogue with people you disagree with. You need to find out what beliefs you have. I think that there's a good number of people just in general that would benefit from a basic understanding of philosophy. And philosophy is just understanding where your beliefs come from. What beliefs do you have? What beliefs don't you have? Being able to disconnect from the ones that your parents gave you and you don't really want anymore. I think those are probably good starting points. Find a community. I think that America in general is one of the worst places to build community.
Really?
Yeah. And I think that maybe that's just a happenstance of my upbringing and what I went through. But I have felt more connected to certain people here in Vietnam in the sense that, like, if I go to a cafe or I go to a business place and I see these people, they actually care about me. And I'm spending my money there. Never felt that in America. Never.
Really?
Really? What are you thinking?
Well, what about the Pew Deli?
Yeah, but, like...
They were kind.
I had been in America for how many years? And, you know, I didn't find the Pew Deli till, like, a year before we left.
Yeah.
Like, that was not, by and large, my experience. And I had lived there a long time.
I mean, for me, it wasn't at, like, you know, regular restaurants. It was, like, traditional... Not even traditional. Just Chinese restaurants where, like, the kid is, like, doing homework in the dining area.
You could practice your Chinese.
Yeah, and we would have dinner with the family sometimes, or we would like just hang out. We would practice Chinese, all that kind of stuff. Like the people at Home Taste, they would recognize us and they would talk to us and stuff.
That could be because your dad was so focused on the Chinese culture, he just built a community around it.
Yeah.
But I felt like for me, and maybe like I said, I'm not a victim, but that doesn't mean I didn't get dealt shitty hands. I never felt that. I always felt like the majority of my living there was transactional.
Mm-hmm.
Just the majority of it was very transactional. I enjoyed high school. I moved around way too much when I was a kid, so I didn't really get to enjoy my childhood for schools because I moved to so many schools. I was at the same high school, so I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed college, but lost contact with everybody except for Keith. That was it. So by and large, it felt transactional, and maybe that's just what Buffalo was like. Maybe the rest of the country was not like that, is not like that. But I, at this point, see it as a challenge to create a community there. And maybe that's just where I am financially. If I thought about myself moving back there financially and what would I be able to do and that sort of thing. Because every single job I did, I hated it and didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So how do you build a community when you don't even want to be around the people you're working with for 5 days out of the week? That's part of my point is how do you build a community when no one feels that way? When you go to, like you said, restaurants, you really never felt that because none of the people liked what they were doing. And they made it obvious. And so then you felt awkward.
Yeah.
How do you, at least, I was talking about here, man likes his fucking job. Man likes cooking all the time. He might bitch and complain. He loves seeing us. He loves cooking good food for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think maybe communities are hard to build when you're poor to very poor. I think if you're in that economic class, which until we left, I was, it's hard to build a community.
It's kind of hard to find one, too. Because we were in the Chinese community of Western New York. I think it was CCWNY. I think that was what it's called. It's a long one. Yeah, it's a long one. But I know my dad's in that. He's probably only the white guy in there. And before, a situation happened, I was in the community, too. Probably almost every Chinese person in that community knew us. I mean, not everybody. I mean, there was the Chinese people who go to UB and didn't know, but Chinese people that lived there, all of them knew us.
I think that, going back to what you asked me, what I say to people like me, I would say get financially free. Because if you can get, I remember, and I'm going to apologize a little bit on this podcast thing. The tangents and the way I switch my conversation, it's part of my brain and how I think about things. It's easier to say what I'm trying to say. Before we left, there was about 2 months that I was there. And it was kind of the closest to I ever felt financially free since I moved out of my mom's house. We had enough money. We were going to be okay. And I couldn't work. And I kind of just had all sorts of free time. Mm-hmm. I was doing shit, getting ready to leave and everything. But I had a lot of free time. And in that time, being able to do the little bit of the D&D group that I got to do was one of the most rewarding community experiences that I had.
Yeah.
It was so cool to be able to come to this place that I had no idea would have this opportunity, and people knew me before I knew them.
Mm-hmm.
And my belief is to have that, you need money. You need time. You need to be
Especially
able to...
time.
Yeah. You need to be able to decide how you want to spend that time with no restrictions and obligations to people. If you have that, you could build a community in America. You could build a community anywhere. But I think if you don't have that, you're going to miss a lot out of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what I would be doing if I didn't do those Chinese dance classes or go to Chinese class for language. and all that kind of stuff, or be invited to Chinese parties all the time and all that kind of stuff during your holiday. Yeah, I don't know what I would be doing. Probably drawing. Okay, let's see. How long? I like to make the podcast run an hour long. Let's see how far we've gotten. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, we can talk for like 10 more minutes. We still got time.
You cut me up some passion fruit.
Okay, after. All right. I don't know if you want to answer this one I put on my card. Any advice for woke women in America? Or just woke people in general? Any advice for the people who really don't like what you're saying?
I'm going to first say it took me a long time to stop hating them. It took me a long time to stop seeing them as an enemy and hating everything about them because of what they were doing to America, what they are doing to America.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think I'm at a place where I necessarily like them. I think I'm just closer to neutral, where I don't think I hate them as much as I used to. And I'm aware a lot more that maybe some of their beliefs aren't their fault.
Okay, well, that's a good start.
You know?
Yeah.
Advice would be to... It'd be a bitter pill. I don't think they would like what I have to say, because even without being obviously offensive and saying something rude, I think, there's a huge wake-up call. I think there's a huge existential crisis waiting underneath their beliefs. Because I think what I didn't really touch on before, because it would have been a big rabbit hole, is that that whole idea that college and education affected the way they believe things. By and large, people never question their beliefs. That's just true. They take the beliefs when they're, when they're at a stage where they're ready to accept new beliefs. It is kind of first come, first serve.
Yeah.
People think that they're so intelligent and that they're so sophisticated, and they're really not. Because the work that needs to be done to unwire the beliefs that you have that you don't know you have is very painful. And it's not something most people want to do. I don't think it's something anyone wants to do, to be honest. You still need to do it, and I think there are people out there who are willing to do it. And I think that's the biggest thing the woke community won't do or hasn't done, is realize that a lot of the beliefs are really crazy and dangerous. And they also don't realize the damage that it does to not be willing to have a conversation with somebody else.
Right.
You can't even... How do you accept new beliefs when you can't have a conversation about your current beliefs?
Mm-hmm.
You just build your stone wall, you just build your, your tower, and you throw shit at everybody that doesn't see things the same way. Okay. Well, you're going to have people, keep their distance. No one wants to talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we're in a world where if you want to vote for Trump, you don't want to say anything publicly, that's kind of scary. The fact that we're in a world where, because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is supporting Trump, he's worried about what's going to happen to him if Trump doesn't win. That's kind of scary.
Why? What would happen to him?
Well, they shot at Trump. The least that we could expect is that legal allegations could be made up against him. Same thing for Elon Musk. You heard about the other guy. There was a recent guy in Ukraine, I believe, that was arrested for some sort of app, because it was a similar app to like Twitter, but it was for Ukraine. I think it was Ukraine or Russia. And he was arrested because he didn't correctly police the app. Right?
What?
Yeah, your eyebrows are exactly what I'm saying.
What, so like show the government that the app is okay or something?
No, policing as
mean?
in like the users.
Oh, like monitor them?
Yes.
Oh.
Because he didn't do it to what the government thought was okay, they arrested him for other people's behaviors on the app. And people are thinking that they're thinking that if there was a world where Elon was in America, he could be targeted next.
Oh, yeah, because you can post literally you can post porn, you can post anything on Twitter. Anything.
So, but,
literally anything.
You know, that doesn't mean you should target Elon Musk for it. But that's the world we're living in, where people are thinking like that now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's end it on a good note. Let's see.
Do I have any good note?
Let's see. Do I have any good questions? Okay. Well, we already answered that one. My last question that I wrote on the card: what will you do if you see signs of woke here?
Oh, we're already gonna leave.
Oh, okay. So we're just gonna leave. Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you think has the least amount of wokeness?
I don't know. I don't care. I mean, it's a spectrum, right? It's ebbs and flows. I think there's places in America we could find that are the opposite of woke. Sure, why not? You know.
Yeah.
Goes both ways.
What kind of state?
Texas, obviously. Texas is a great place probably for that. In the world, I would say Poland's a great place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Japan maybe?
Maybe.
I don't know. Poland, maybe Germany. Not too many. Maybe UK. I'm not sure.
No.
Yeah.
No, not UK.
So.
Okay, well, that was that was really a so happy question. Okay, well, how about we will discuss what we'll be talking about on our next podcast. Something a little bit more happy, because this is a pretty tough podcast for our listeners. Okay, we're going to edit this out, so we're going to come up with ideas. So, what about something less negative? Well, what were you talking about today? Was there any main topics?
You know, if you want, we could talk about like the benefits of time freedom. That's a whole
time freedom
topic of, you know, that could take an hour easily.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Just one more thing, maybe. Is religion a bad thing to jump into?
You definitely don't.
I mean, if you want to talk about your politics, I know that'll be fun for you.
You know, maybe religion, politics.
What does Robert Jordan like to talk about?
Jordan Peterson
like to talk about.
What do you mean? He'll talk about philosophy, he'll talk about beliefs, he'll talk about psychology.
Oh, well, you're a psychology, philosophy kind of guy.
Oh my god.
So, I got a good one. Our superpowers.
Okay.
Again, every you think everybody is their own mini god, right? And we all have our own superpowers. Like
you want me to talk about that?
Yes, and like you have the ability to read people's minds.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Okay. So we're at it. 3, 2, 1, boom. Okay, on the next podcast, we'll stop laughing. On the next podcast, we will be talking about everybody's superpowers, because in our own way, we're all mini gods. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, and that will be a much more happier topic than this one. This one was a really interesting topic that might offend a few people, but it needed to be said out loud. And I'm sure it'll make other people happy that someone is saying something about the situation.
If you have any questions on like my personal experiences, obviously feel free to reach out. I'm not trying to say that these are the beliefs that everybody has who's a white straight guy. You know, I'm just talking about my experiences. That's all.
Yes. Okay. So we will see you guys, or have you listen to us in episode 5. Bye-bye. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Say goodbye louder.
Goodbye.
There you go. Okay.